Okay, so welcome to session number 2 of the. Sorry, I just got to move one thing off my screen here so I can actually see my screen. There we go. Okay, so welcome to workshop number 2 of the Salmon Packaging Design Competition. So as promised for this competition, we're not just asking you to design the product and send it in. We're actually inviting you to take part in this specially customized series of Design X made for the competition. And I'll give a very brief introduction again of who we are, what we are, who I am, for anybody who missed the first session. Just so you know, if you missed the first session, you're going to be totally fine today. It's not in a precise continuation of material. Obviously, it does flow one into the other. I might make a reference to something we talked about last time, but it really works well on its own as well. So don't worry about that. But I'll introduce you to Design X at MIT. We are a venture accelerator and also the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at MIT in the MAD Academy for Design. And that positions us in a way to help both students and faculty, but also industry and partners around the world who have ideas and want to take action on them to either turn them into a venture, create a new product or service or process. And in this case, how can you take your ideas for a design competition and formulate them into a submission? So that is how we work. We have 4 stages that we generally work with called understand, solve, envision, and deploy. And what that means is the first thing we do, and what we focused on last time, which is understanding the need in the marketplace and understanding how we even discover what the need is. The second part is solve, and that is where we actually look at what the need is and start to apply an actual design or process or venture to address that. And we make sure that there's a connection between the need and the solution. The third phase is envision, which is what do we do? How do we actually create? Usually, people who are in our venture accelerator, how do they create the venture? What is the business model? And then finally, deploy. Well, what plan? What is the plan of action? Who do you need to hire? How much money do you need to raise? How are you going to actually not just talk about the idea, but deploy it? So in this series, we're only focusing on the first 2 phases in our curriculum, understand and solve. And actually, today's material is going to again kind of be more of a kind of the bridge between understand and solve, because we're going to be looking at value proposition. So first, just a couple words about me again. So welcome back for those who have joined us last time. I am a lecturer in the MIT Department of Architecture and also the executive director of MIT Design X, which I just spoke about. I'm an architect and a planner by profession, also a designer, kind of goes in, works with those two. And I'm also a cook, a salmon lover, and a grocery shopper. So it kind of, in this opportunity to do this workshop series together with CNPC and Latitude 45 and make this design competition more than just a please submit your competition, but how can we actually work with you? It sounded absolutely perfect to us as an organization and then to me personally. So, like I said, there was 4 phases for our overall venture accelerator. Here, we're also doing 4 phases, except they're kind of related only to the first 2 global phases. What we worked on last time was needs analysis, and today we're going to be focused on value proposition, and I'll give a lot of explanation about what that means, how you go about doing it, some interesting methodologies that we've actually drawn on in order for you to use. The next 2 sessions, so every few weeks we meet online. The next 2 sessions will be need, solution, fit. That's where we really bridge to the design. That's where we start to, you start to apply specific specifications, design specifications for your product design. And then finally, the user journey, because that ties in, which is where we look at the full customer experience. You know, why they wake up in the morning, go to the store, purchase the product, come home, cook the product, present the product, and well, eat it. So, and what they do afterwards. So we're going to be focusing on those two next time, but today we are going to dive into value proposition. The sorry, one second. Yep. The workshop will look at four specific areas. One is, well, what drives US consumer choices in food and also in food packaging specifically, because that is the goal here of this competition. That will allow us to discuss, certain attributes such as convenience, sustainability, and design. And actually, there's quite a few more. And part of this workshop, I'm going to be asking you more questions this time. So we're going to hear from you during this hour plus. We're going to end this workshop really with instructions really on how to create a clear and differentiated value proposition statement. So this is something that you as a designer are going to need to apply in, yes, in graphic form, but it might come out in words as well. So it's not just about designing something, but it's coming up with some important verbiage that might be used in the concept itself. And well, the last thing is really how do we apply this all to the packaging concept that you're designing. So first question, of course, is, well, what is value proposition? And one clear definition that we use is that it's the positive value that a customer expects and then must receive when purchasing a product. Okay, so I'm being general with product. And then I can say a little bit more specifically that value can be measured in many ways. And it's actually rarely financial when it comes to food, right? We're not necessarily going to get rich from eating our food. It's a lot of other ways that we actually see value. The value proposition also plays really, if you think about it, the most important role in a customer's decision when they're purchasing product, right? For the most part, you have many choices and you need to differentiate your product and really through the role of the packaging, your product from others. And the customer, therefore, has to see the value in the product itself and how it's presented in order to make that purchase. And so the producer, the role of you now as the designer and the producer as the one who puts this on the shelf, has to aspire to those customer needs and to market toward them. So value proposition is really more than anything connected to marketing. And the marketing department has to look at the value proposition and make sure that the design and the advertising and marketing and everything that goes with it listens to those needs and the values that are required and puts them into the design of the package. Of course, the package is just packaging the food, and it's the actual salmon that has to, in the end of the day, speak for itself when it's after it's been purchased. That part, though, has been done. Now it's a question of how to make sure that, until people actually buy it and get the product, they can only believe what they see, right? If you're in a market and you get those, little samples, you can taste something, and that's actually a great marketing tool, but that's not how you can sell, for the most part, how you sell packages of food. So I'm actually going to turn this over to you for a few minutes. I'll keep this, look at what it says here. What are the key consumer values in food packaging? And, if people just want to, you can just speak up. You can raise your hand or just open up your mic and start throwing some ideas of some key consumer values. And you're a consumer. What do you look for in the food packaging? What does it need to convey to you? Anybody have something to share? I'm being shy today. I have the whole list, so I can tell you, but I'm going to see what you say first.
Okay. In the chat there.
Oh, then the chat, I'm sorry,
Sorry.
everyone's writing it down.
Nutrition. The packaging protects the products that contains healthy, practicality, fresh, sustainable, dimensions and volumes.
Great. Okay, so here they come. I'm sorry, I didn't see the chat button. So yeah, so nutrition, health, right? Both of those. You have to know that what it actually contains. So the labeling has to really convey the ingredients, right? We need to know volume, so we need to know and dimensions. We need to know exactly how much we're getting. So that is kind of related to transparency of the product itself, right? Are we getting 100 grams, 500 grams? Because then we make decisions based on volume and size, of course. The freshness, okay, so freshness has to be shown, and that can be, we can show that in multiple ways, either showing the date, seeing the actual product, so the packaging itself can let us see that what's coming from, where it's coming from. Practicality, that's an interesting one. Juan, can you help us there? What do you mean by practicality?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I mean that I expect that the packaging to be functional for my different needs. For example, if I open, I don't know, maybe a box of chocolates, and then I want to close the packaging. I need to serve my purpose to consume that product over time, and that is what I mean.
Got it. So excellent. And that is true for so many different food packages. And if you notice today, there are so many different ways of actually opening and closing boxes or bags, and the packaging companies, the producers have really thought about that. So definitely think about how will that apply in this case to salmon. I'm not going to give you any ideas. This is all everybody here in the room is going to have to think themselves what that translates to as far as design. But think about that, right? You
Yeah,
don't
and
necessarily eat it all at once. That's true.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and particularly in the salmon, when you open a salmon, the packaging, you have to throw it out. You have to eliminate the packaging. You cannot reuse it to maintain. Maybe I want one piece of salmon, and sometimes it's confusing the packaging in the salmon. It's not functional. It's not practicality for my needs.
Good point. So definitely think about that as you design a better package. So those are excellent. I see some other ones, again, freshness, attractive aesthetics. Okay, that's definitely one that we're gonna talk about. But if you notice, like freshness and sustainability actually came before that even appeared, and which is interesting. You're going to see in a minute. Storytelling, communication, right? So how are you conveying the message? And if you're looking for value, even in the communication, that is important. And I'm just going to a couple more here, and then we'll press the button. But yeah, that Victoria mentions that preserving the quality of the product. If the product is not consumed in its entirety, similar to what you were saying before, that Juan, how can I keep on using this? It's more than just a package. Mateos, less is more. So excellent. I'm going to just close that. And so these are some of the key terms, and actually you mentioned all of them, right? Convenience, practicality, sustainability, design, aesthetics, freshness, and transparency. Somebody might have mentioned safety. We have to know that the product is of true origin. We have to know that we're not getting something that's going to be contaminated, that it might have been opened and closed, right? These are extremely important for all of us when we purchase, right? So most of you've you actually wrote and said a lot of these things. Of course, the first one, easy to open, reseal, store. Sustainability, we are definitely looking for recyclable, compostable, minimal plastic. I'm going to jump past design for a second, but freshness, can I see the product? In this case, with fish, do I know when it was caught? Trusted seals and brand authenticity, and clear information about the product, right? The information that is being shown on the label. These are all super important, and this is what the data is telling us. But actually, there's a brand new data source I'm going to show you in a second that kind of surprised me a little bit, and I'm going to share it with you. So, this is actually what we just discussed. So I'll skip it to here. So just a couple months ago, McKinsey, a very large consulting firm, they did another in their series of what U.S. consumers care about when it comes to purchasing, and specifically, they were asking the question, do U.S. consumers care about sustainable packaging in 2025? And so they've been running this survey for several years. So they have some baseline data, and they're actually seeing this really cool trend in the past 5 years. And I'm going to share some of this information. We'll share the actual article that this came from as well afterwards. But one of the first questions they asked, of course, was just, okay, what are your purchasing decisions when it comes to the product, not to the packaging yet. That'll be in the next slide. But the first thing that people were looking for, the most important thing, is perception of quality. Okay, that was ironically actually 5 years ago price, but now it's quality. And price, definitely a close second. Convenient access to the food. This is not the packaging yet. This is the product. Brand only came in number 4, right? So again, this means that when we are in the supermarket or in the store and we're making a decision on what between 2 or 3 different products, only the 4th thing that we actually think about on average is brand. And then the 5th one is product packaging, okay? Followed by environmental impact and social impact. Now, if you notice, of course, these numbers don't add, it's not about adding up to 100. You can have multiple choices. What it means, and if you see how product packaging has actually increased, it's almost doubled what it was back in 2020. What it means is that people have more decision-making factors. So they're not just making one decision and using it to make it to when they choose their product. They actually think about quality, price, access, brand, packaging, and environmental impact and social impact. Now, and we can see which ones they think about more, but I would say it's always important to look at the trend. And when something doubles, that's an indication that product packaging is actually extremely important. And it's important for a couple of things. In the next slide, we'll get into that. But the other thing here that I want to mention is that there's a lot more decisions being made, what the study found, when we purchase products that are non-personal. So it's not just about what we want to eat, but about how the product impacts the environment or society. And that is extremely important because that will very much affect the way we market and, of course, package our products. And the next, quite a few different studies, surveys, but the next survey of importance to me was the importance of packaging characteristics. Okay, so here the question was, when making a decision, what do you look for? What's the most important thing when you are holding the package? And food safety came first, and that of course makes sense. And then you start looking at, as you move down the list here, shelf life. And I imagine myself as a person in the survey. I'm like, well, yeah, of course, I want to know, is this going to be good for a week or for 2 weeks, or or did it pass its shelf life? So that's of importance. And then it's about the other information included on the label. And then the ease of use, goes a little bit down. Durability, okay, make sure that the package won't, again, it depends what you're buying, but of course that it won't break or tear open when you don't want it to. And then environmental impact. And then this is the interesting one. Appearance way at the bottom. And in fact, it's less than it was in 2020. What? So the number in the dotted box on the right is the percentage of respondents who said extremely important or very important, right? So it's the dark blue and the medium blue. That's how that last column is arranged. So I said, wait a minute. We're worried about design and appearance is the last thing on the list when people are picking it up. So I thought about it and read into it a little bit more, and I have an answer why that appears that way and why design is still the most important thing. So you'll hear me out in a second. And then the last one I'll show you from this study was the importance of sustainability characteristics. Okay, so specifically when you're thinking of the package in your hand, the most important thing is recyclability. Right? Can I recycle this? And then is the product made of recycled content came in second. So the difference, of course, is my product can be recycled, but the product I'm holding was actually made from something that was something before. So it's recycled content. That was number two. Is it compostable? Is it reusable? And then as you go down the list, the CO2 impact and bio-based are further down. But it's really about what the way I interpret this is what I, as the customer who's able to do something, right? I am able to recycle and I'm able to choose something that was made from recycled content. For many people, you're able to compost. For some, you're able to reuse it. And then, the CO impact, of course, is extremely important, but if you think about it, it's less of what the person holding the product can do in real time. So that's how I interpreted this one. But this is a good sign, right? That people are much more aware than ever of the sustainability of the package itself and not just of the product inside. So, looking at those top three that were on the list, the perception, and I say perception because all we can see in the package really is what we're being told, right? Until we either do research or get the product or eat the product, it's all about the storytelling and the perception and the trust that we have. And that's where brand actually really comes in. When people trust a brand, they trust the package and they trust the information. So the first one is quality, and then the next one was freshness on the McKinsey list, and the third one, price. And honestly, design, right? It's how we perceive that quality, freshness, and price are presented is all through the design of the package. So as a designer, I'm not letting go of of the importance of the appearance and the aesthetics of the package, and not just aesthetics, but the design, the message. And this, for those who were in the last session, it's about how design projects value. All right. So now, I talked a lot about what the surveys say, what the data says, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this last time, is you don't always have data, and you don't always have to just go with data. Sometimes you can go with a little bit of a hunch, and sometimes you can think of something that hasn't been spoken about or demanded yet by the client, by the customer. What is the wow factor? And if you think about, a lot of products have been presented to us and have changed because the companies and the marketing departments and the packaging departments have thought about, well, what can we do that's going to be completely different? And so that's where the wow comes in. And that's where you can deliver value beyond the basic needs that you might identify. And that's, again, your job as the designer to think about that. So one way, and this is actually something we do in another Sorry, one second. So one way that this that we look at how do we create new value and do something different is something that we look at in market segmentation. So when we do a market segmentation for a venture and for a company, you think about, well, where am I entering the market? What is my position? And there's four general buckets for markets, and I'll read them all and explain them to you. The one way of coming into a market is to satisfy it. Another way is to bring to market something new. A third way is to disrupt the market. And the fourth is to create a brand new market. And let me just dig into this a little bit. So satisfy market, this is sometimes the easiest one and often the one where probably 95% of people, of companies fit, right? You're not inventing something new. You're coming into an existing market. So imagine, I'm going to not talk about salmon specifically, but imagine restaurants, right? There are restaurants everywhere in the world almost, and it's not a new concept. And there's a demand for restaurants. And sometimes it goes up or down, and it depends on demographics, of course. But there is a demand for fast food restaurants, and if there's not enough in that particular neighborhood, a new one comes in and satisfies the market. Now, that is an easy way to come into the market, but it also means you have to compete with and be somehow better in some way. Maybe it might be cheaper. Maybe you'll just have really good marketing. Maybe you'll give out prizes. Maybe there'll be something great for the kids when they come to the restaurant, right? But you're still satisfying the market. You're doing exactly the same thing. The next one is where you bring to market something a little bit different. You're launching a new technology or product or service within the existing market. Now, it's not just opening up another sushi restaurant. It is bringing something new. And if you think about, I think it's Yo Sushi. I think it's one of the companies, and there's a few other ones now actually around the world where they change the concept of how we get the sushi in the restaurant. And I believe in Japan they already had this, but in the West it was not, or in the other parts of the world, it wasn't common to sit down and have a conveyor belt bringing you the sushi. Now, that is a change, something bringing to the market something, and that's been done now, and there's other ways that it's being done. The third one, this is where you start to be really different, and it's very hard. Very few companies start to do this, disrupting. But if you manage to do it, you actually have the chance for the biggest impact, because here you're fundamentally changing, right? Fundamentally changing technology. So this will likely not necessarily apply to this particular competition, but I want to bring this up in any case. So when you disrupt a market, think of Uber, right? They came into the taxi market and fundamentally changed the way we get taxis, who can be a taxi. And what it kind of does is it makes the existing solution obsolete. It's, I'm not going to get into the social issues that it creates, but it's completely changed the market for taxis in many parts of the world, especially in the US. And then the last one is where you create a brand new market, right? It never existed before. And I'll use another common one, Airbnb. Just common that most people in the room will, I'm assuming everybody here knows Airbnb. They created, it's not that they disrupted things. Yes, they disrupted the way we go and stay in hotels or inns around the world, but they also created a new market at large, at least, where many people can start to turn their own home into an Airbnb, right? Into a rentable product. And even though it existed at a smaller scale before that, they were not the absolute first ones in the market. Them or others like them created something brand new. And it's not necessarily that they disrupted or destroyed the old market, but it's they gave themselves something new to economically, something new to grow into. So the reason I brought this up is, if we look at the last, sorry, if we look, the last slide about, okay, what can you do that's going to be different and wow, think a little bit here, at least in the blue zone, at least in bringing to market, how would this package create something new and also present something new to the client, to the customer, sorry. And it's the role of the package, though. You're not going to be going and changing the food. You're not changing the salmon itself, but what is new in this package that has never been done in a package before, right? I would like you to think about that. Because then you combine value that we seek or that the public seeks, plus value that we didn't even know that it exists, right? If you can do that, you're in a different ballgame. So we made this chart again to show where value proposition fits in terms of the design of the product and also the communication strategy, the marketing of the product. And where it fits is right in the middle. It is both how you build something, the value proposition dictates really the design, and it provides the material for the communication and the marketing and advertising. It all fits together. You can't have a package that is presenting one thing and then talk about it in another way. You can't have a package that is wrapped around a product and makes you believe that the product is one thing and then say that it is something else, right? I'm not just talking about, the quantity or the quality of it, but even more. And, if you think about design of any product, really, I have to, without even reading anything, believe what's presented to me visually, really, that is going to do something. That is somehow they listen to the values that I projected, and I'm going to come. I might have to inspect it, look at it a little bit more, but I'm pretty much convinced before by the time I pick something up, I should be convinced that yes, this is for me, and that is how people, definitely compete in the marketplace. So sort of a summary of this segment here so far is that value proposition has to, yes, inform your key design and development decisions. It has to determine really the design requirements. And then it's going to generate your communication and your marketing strategy. And the main thing is that it has to outline how this particular product is going to bring more value than the competitor, or address the most important values that the customer is looking for and what is driving their desire. It all has to fit together as one. So if we say this, again, the value proposition is the foundation of design decisions, let's think a minute about what are the decisions. And I'm bringing up this theory, and I'll explain it to you in a minute, because it is really, once you learn this theory, and there's some great lectures that the late Clayton Christensen gave that kind of talk about why we actually choose things, and it's different from what you'd believe them to be. We make decisions. I'm not saying it's subconscious necessarily, but we make decisions when we buy products that are often not what we'd imagine, and especially what the creators of those products think them to be. We think people are buying one thing for a certain reason. Turns out when you do some research, they might be buying it for a completely different reason. And if you can latch on to that, you can design a better product, a better package. And so Clayton Christensen is professor at Harvard Business School, and he came up with this theory called the jobs to be done theory. It's specifically, sorry, my phone thought it's talking to it. I'm not. So it is jobs to be done, not job to be done. So it is specifically plural. And he came up with this theory and says that when we do anything, but particularly when we buy something or engage or eat or drink something, even, there's actually a reason that we choose one product over another. And let's actually figure that out. And he has a great video, actually. You can, I really suggest everybody watch it afterwards about the McDonald's milkshake. And this is based on some work that was being done at McDonald's, and they're trying to figure out, well, why people buy something at a certain time of day at the takeout at the drive-through, why they're interested in one thing and not another. And I don't remember the exact. There was something they did that they changed something and affected their revenue stream. Like, wait, what? Wait, what's going on? And they started doing research of the people who are buying the drink in the drive-through lane, and they found out something interesting, that people were not purchasing the particular type of milkshake because they wanted something sweet. They weren't purchasing it because of the caffeine. Turned out that a lot of people were purchasing this certain product because it came in a container that they could drink slowly, that had a lid, that had a straw, and that they could put in the fridge when they get to work and drink it all morning. And it turned out the job to be done, so this is the example he uses, one of the many. The job to be done was not to get a caffeine fix, was not to because they were thirsty, but the most important, because that could be done in different ways. The most important thing was that it would be a container that would be good for driving in a car and then using for the rest of the morning in doses. And so all of a sudden they're like, oh, so that's what we have to make. That's what we have to make more of. We have to make it available beyond the times that we thought people wanted. And when you apply that theory, you actually see that there's perhaps something different in the design and in the delivery of a product. And once you kind of believe in this theory, you kind of can't let go of it, I'll be honest. And this theory it goes, so that's all calling it a theory. This methodology really goes hand in hand with several others. And the way we work is actually taking many methodologies sometimes, and all the good ones, and putting them together. And a lot of the work that we've done through the years, we've looked at Osterwalder, who created something many years ago. I should know the date, but definitely over 15 years ago, called the Business Model Canvas. And many of you might have seen this. It's a very popular open source material that was created. It might be close to 20 years now. And the Business Model Canvas was an idea that, well, we don't need to have a 100-page business plan to explain what we're doing. We should be able to, on one piece of paper, put it all together. Why a customer, what they need, what is provided, how we get it, how it makes money, how much it costs, and just put it down really quickly on a piece of paper. So he did that, and that's not what you're seeing here. But then he said, well, we could take each piece of this and kind of dig further. And that's what we do at DesignX. And this one particular chart we actually use in our material as well, called a value proposition canvas. Because again, it's so simple. And sometimes when things are so simple, you don't have to complicate them. So the strategy there was, there's two sides of the value proposition. There's the customer, right? And their needs and what we learn about them. And the jobs to be done theory actually fits right into here. It even calls it the customer jobs, right? So they're bordering on each other. And if you understand what it is that they need and what are the gains that they get from it, and what are the pains they have if they don't have it, right? If they do not have a lid on their coffee or shake, then it's going to spill and get them dirty or burn them if it was a hot product. And the gains, of course, are having something all morning, not having having something tasty, etc., etc. And you have to understand on the right-hand side, what are they looking for? And then you easily create the product on the left-hand side. So the product or service, it fits in here, excuse me, is the actual design. So in this case, and for you, when I'm saying to look at this one, it's what are people looking for when they're buying the package of the salmon? And what is the package going to have to provide them? So put yourself in the headspace of the package, not of the fish itself, and think what are people looking for when they get that package? What are the most important values, of course, and what is the job to be done with that package? What do they gain from the good things? What pains do they have if they don't have those? And then you create the package, and it has the two categories in reverse. What are the gain creators? How are you going to make sure that those gains are celebrated and exemplified? And what pain relievers you'll provide if there are any pains. So this is where something is going to leak. You make sure it does not leak, right? Just giving you a very quick example. You might not have that many pains. You might have more gains. You might have more pains, right? It's up to you to decide which one has more. And then in the product design, where you need to have more gains and pain relievers or creators. And what you need to do is make sure that for every gain, there's something that you bring something to you bring the client something, and for every pain you alleviate it. And if you kind of make a perfect match here, then you're onto something. So it's a great tool if you work both with the jobs to be done theory and look at the value proposition in this context. And of course, look at all the different all the values that we discussed earlier. You're going to be able to get to a really interesting design proposition. And then the last part of the value proposition is the actual proposition statement. So when we do this with companies that are creating a service or even a product, but the product they don't know what the design is yet. It's really about what they tell the client they're going to deliver. So it's often much more abstract. And there you have to rely on words. You have to actually explain what the value proposition is so that I believe that the service or the product in the future is going to provide me. Now, in this case, because it's a design, we could just say, well, skip all that and just go to the visuals. But we're not letting you do that. We're actually saying, no, it's actually very important to have the proposition statement for you as the designer, because that's going to guide your design. And it could actually fit into the marketing material. It could fit into part of the labeling. So it's not just design alone is not the answer. You need to explain the value you provide. And so the way we do it is we look at, again, value proposition as the key material for marketing. So what if we looked at the proposition statement as marketing material? And think of the most important thing that the customer, needs to see or hear first is a simple headline describing why I should be buying this product, by what is the main primary value generator, right? So this is the main positive generator that I'm getting from the product. This is why you have to do everything else first. And this way I understand as the customer why I need this value. Because again, it might not be obvious to me. Sometimes, I'm not being asked questions every time I go to the store. I just go and do it, right? McKinsey isn't there with me, but they do believe in this. They do, we as consumers do follow this mantra. So the simple headline is really, okay, well, what is the main thing? What is the main value I'm getting from this product? And the second part, though, is what we call the subheading. And that's where you have to give a little bit more of an explanation on the value, right? So how do you get that value? Right? So it's not just about having, let's think about an example that has nothing to do with salmon, an airline, right? Airlines are advertising to us all the time. There are many airlines in the world. And they all kind of do the same thing. They fly airplanes and take you from point A to point B. But as we know, that intense competition and different types of airlines. Some are budget, some are luxury, some have major networks, et cetera, et cetera. But they still, when it comes down to it, there's probably 4 different types of airlines, and each one of those types has dozens or hundreds of different companies. They need to show different value to us, the customer. And some of the larger ones will tell us they'll focus on their network, their hub. They're connected to 300 cities in 100 countries. That's the main value. I know I can come there and I can get everywhere. And then they have to explain it really in the subheading that, yeah, we have 18 hubs that will connect you to everywhere you need to be at any time, any day. Okay. They're not telling me necessarily that they have the best food, although there is an airline that did that. If anybody's flown Turkish Airlines, they made a really big emphasis on the quality of the food. And last time I flew them, they were actually really good. And no other airline really just said, even in economy class, you're going to get a really good meal. When you get on the plane, there's a chef, or at least one of the crew that puts on a chef's hat, and when you get on the plane, you actually feel like you're going to get a chef designed meal, not just in first class, also in economy. And they use that as one of their values. They also have a big hub and sorry, quite a big network from one hub in what is also one of the largest airports now, and most modern in Istanbul. So they compete in that way. And then there's the Ryanairs and the EasyJets and Southwests of the world who compete on value of price, right? So they're like, well, we're not going to give you really good. You probably won't get food at all, but we're going to give you the cheapest possible flight. And if that's what you're looking for, that's great. But that means their proposition statement and their visuals and the way they present themselves is going to be based on that. And their simple headline, will be about best cheapest cheapest flights across the U.S. And that's it. I know I'm coming there. More details, yeah, we can get you from we can provide you 3 or 4 different value saver fares, based on when you order it, etc. Wonderful. So that's the simple headline and the subheading to explain it a bit more. And then the features, these are like bullet points. These are key benefits that make your product or package uniquely valuable. So again, with the airline, they can just list a few things and just say, voted best airline in the world if it's about quality, or most connections in the world, or perhaps it's something to do with their loyalty plan, right? Well, you'll earn free flights the fastest with us. There's something there when they list those features, but it's not enough just to say those features. There has to be that initial headline, the initial reason that I even go to that airline. And now bringing it back to salmon packaging, it's when I'm picking up this box of salmon, there has to be something there. And it might be turned into a graphic, but it could be a headline as well. There's something in the design, words or visuals, that I'm understanding the value, the most important value, and I'm getting a bit more information about it. And then when I sit and ponder and read the box, right, because that's my last piece of advertising before I purchase it, I'm getting all the important points. Now, because this is food, right, and because I'm buying, perhaps in this case not a raw product, but I'm buying the product that I'm going to combine it with a meal, right? I have to understand the future of this product, not just the way it looks today. And so visuals, of course, come back home to help drive the message of all these values together, or bring them all together. And if you can do all this, combined with all the values that we talked about at the beginning, making sure that the job to be done for the customer is achieved, understanding the perception of the values I get, because that's what you have to provide here. I'll only know those values at the end of the day when I check out of the checkout counter and or when I get home and eat the food. If the value proposition then meets my expectations, then you create a very happy customer, and the happy customer will come back. Now, what we're not going to get into today is, well, how do you get repeat customers out of packaging? But that can also be, well, that can be connected to the value proposition as well. I'm not just buying it once, I should be buying this over and over again. Okay, well, what value do I have perhaps in that aspect? I want to see if there's any questions. I try to make this sound as simple as possible. Of course, the actual work is hard, but I can leave you to that. But I don't know. What are people thinking out there? Look at the chat if anybody writes down anything. Has anybody designed a product? Let's get some answers here. Yes. I know there's some industrial designers and product designers out there, so I knew the answer would be yes. Of course, Felipe. And Tommaso, wonderful. So you've designed products before. How much have you looked at the value you're creating versus the current trends in the marketplace? Any thoughts on that? How much have you made the design of the product about the user and not about the functionality? Right? You can do both, but what we really want to reinforce is how it's understanding the user, understanding the values that they're looking for, as opposed to the functionality that you're kind of differentiating yourself from the customer. You can do that, but then why is that functionality there? Tommaso, do you want to, you don't have to, but if you want to share anything about your work?
Oh, yeah. Can
Great.
you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, perfect. It depends by the project. For example, years ago, I was working with Epson, designing printers, and we had to work for home office printers. And so we started to design the product, looking how people use the printers inside their home and where they put the printers inside their home. So before designing, we have a look to how these tools are used and placed in the home. So we have a look and we made some research about the environment they are used, and then we design the product.
Excellent, right? Because for them, it's not the product itself, it's how it actually fits into the really into the furniture, into the design of the house.
Yeah.
So and I'm very guilty of that. I have a printer, and it's probably not the best. I'm sure the printer you worked on was excellent. The printer I bought was
years ago. You can tell everything.
okay. All right.
Okay, it's
So
not
the
a
printer-
problem.
No, I mean, it's not your printer, the one I have, or maybe it is, but the printer that I purchased, the main reason, because I don't need it, I print very little at home, right? So
Yeah.
at the office, we have a big printer. That's where we go for the quality, machine that's going to be able to make 10,000 copies a day, etc. And at home, I just need it to work every few days. So the most important value for me was that it would look good in my corner of the office, which is actually the living room.
Yeah.
That was the main value, right? So somebody like you said, okay, well, that's what they're looking for. They're looking not for the not for the actual the functioning of the product, but it doesn't look good. And
Yeah.
it's available in white and in black, right? Now there's even some other colors. Then there's other values like, well, can I, with the printer, of course, all these, like, yes, can it be connected to Wi-Fi? Well, almost every printer now can be. At the beginning, though, that was a feature. I was like, oh, I can actually put this anywhere. It doesn't have to be next to a plug. Now, it has to be. It's pretty much obvious. And then there's, of course, well, I want something that's going to last me forever, or that's going to be, or it's the speed, right? So all the different values that we look for in the product. But the aesthetics, that's the one that would have stuck out, and that's what you discovered, and definitely
Yeah.
what I experienced as well. So, it's when we think about an actual product that sits on the shelf, it's one thing. When we think about the package of food, it's maybe not so obvious. And
No.
I'm not giving, and this is for everybody here, so I'm not going to say anything. But there's definitely some really interesting packages that I've encountered. And then, again, think about okay. One definite advice to everyone is go through the motions of getting a package of salmon, right? And go and buy the product if you can. And what we're going to do is, yes, in the user journey toward the end again, but even here in value proposition, you can use this experience to kind of learn some things about the customer, because you can be one. Now, again, I showed you at the very beginning this McKinsey report doing a survey of thousands of US consumers, and that's great. And so they did the work for you, right? So you can see that report, but then you still need to go beyond the data and the reports just to find something else as a designer. So we are going to actually end a little bit. Yes, go ahead, Felipe.
I'm sorry. No, I think that it's also important to consider also the several instances of use, because that package must be considered in the production plant where the salmon must be loaded, but also then at the like a product on place at the supermarket or the stores, and then when you are at home, when you are into a restaurant, and you're going to be consuming or sharing it, your experience with some other people.
Right. So, well, thanks for bringing that up, because I might have been focusing too much actually only on the final user at home, but the packaging company, the shipper and the store, they're actually also the customer here, because they're the ones who are going to be moving this product through the over days, or I guess days, maybe a week of its shelf life. And it's going to be packaged with other things, and other people are going to have to sort through it. So absolutely, think not just about the final user, but in this case about how it goes through the supply chain. Very good point. So go ahead, somebody.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Diego, you say when designing packages, detecting attributes that are negotiable and which are not negotiable. Sorry. So detecting attributes that are negotiable and which are not. I guess is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes. Especially in the same line Felipe was talking about, we have to focus not only on the needs in the process of purchasing this packaging and this product, but also on the logistics. We are talking about the salmon that is traveling all through the Americas and being produced and packaged in Chile. So we're talking about some issues we might have to think about, not only thinking in the consumer, and that's why we have to understand that there's not only one customer, but there are many in all the process.
Right. Great point between you and Felipe. Understanding the supply chain for the product, not just the end user. Okay. So I will ask if there's any more. Oh, one more coming up here. Tommaso, is the packaging displayed in supermarkets? If so, how and on what type of shelf? Actually, Felipe, do you want to help address that?
Let me check. Is the packaging displayed in supermarket? If so, how and on what type of shelf? Yeah, here it was connected. Someone coming from Multi-X as well. I don't know if she's still here, but the answer is yes, yes. It will be displayed in supermarket. And the type of shelf, I think it's part of the investigation. It is good to go and see and check what about the category, what about the whole, where it's displayed, and how they can highlight on that.
Yep. So you can go and if you look at the Latitude 45 website, you can see it's sold at numerous supermarkets and including Walgreens and I think BJ's and a few others that they list there. And yeah, go look at the store. Like it's you won't be able to go to the production line necessarily. Only the winner at the end, I suppose, will. But you can look at the supermarkets, and that is, at least you'll be somewhere in the middle of the chain. That's actually, I would say that is almost a must if you're working on the design.
Yeah, and regarding the production lines, you can go and see the video that we prepared for this competition, but it's available on the MIT site.
Yeah, through the you'll be able to get to the YouTube. We have it uploaded on our YouTube channel. The videos were sent. That was all sent in emails from the Accelerator app. It should be through our website as well. We'll double check. If anybody has any issue, just send us an email. We'll make sure you get it. And Tommaso sends a screenshot from Sam's Club. There it is. So it's in obviously in a refrigerator section. So the product will be kept at, I guess, 4 degrees Celsius or below. Well, at 4 degrees Celsius, I think that would be the right temperature, if I'm not incorrect. Okay, so we'll make sure you get you do see the access of those videos. They're actually really helpful for you as you design. Okay. Any other questions? All right, so with that, I thank you very much. The recording will be by probably later today, will be made available. And anybody who's missed it, well, they're not here, so they'll just see it otherwise. So anybody who missed it, you got to see the recording just now. Any questions, of course, please just write us at designx@mit.edu, and we'll make sure to address your questions and concerns. We meet again in roughly 2 weeks, and for the third workshop, we are going to, at that point, then open up submissions so people can start submitting their designs. They're only due by November 17th. So you do have some time, but we will, of course, open the doors to let them in, and look forward to seeing you again. With that, thank you, everybody.